I was totally male.
Indiana Jones.
Sometimes there's a bit of testosterone.
I used to work in Parliament. I was working as a parliamentary staffer for about 4 years. I accidentally fell pregnant at the age of 24, which kind of threw me completely, right? So I didn't want to go back to staffing because it's really hard. So I went back into my masters, and what I found was that I hated my undergrad. I just hated university, right? When I was doing my masters, I loved it.
I didn't do very well in my undergraduate studies, which were science. But then my elder sister suggested I do a master's in Pacific Island Studies at the University of Hawaii, and that changed my life.
So the thought of getting on the phone to a client was just agony. And I really missed the scholarship, writing essays and that sort of thing. So I went off and did a postgraduate degree at Oxford University and then got offered work back here.
I started out as a recording engineer in my very late teens, early 20s, and I was working in recording studios in London, and I became super fascinated with how a musical performance or musical composition ends up on record.
We started up a society for the quantitative study of political science in Australia, and for the first couple of years it would be me as the one woman, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I started off, there were very few women involved. I mean, particularly on the audio engineering and technology side. There's far more women practicing on the popular music academic side than there are in audio engineering.
In my area, which is private law, and which has quite a commercial focus, early on in my career there were definitely more men.
It's not just that it was male, it was white male dominated, as most fields are. From the 90s onwards, more women started moving into Pacific Studies and more islanders. And that really transformed Pacific Studies. I think issues about gender became more prominent, and issues around indigeneity, decolonization, anti-imperial scholarship.
I accepted a position as lecturer and arrived back in Canberra to discover I was pregnant. So that was a bit of a challenge back in the 80s. There weren't many female academics in the law school.
Changing the university to be more accepting of diversity, not just in terms of gender, but in terms of race and culture. But the other one has to do with making universities more family friendly in the broadest sense.
I had a very supportive husband, which is such a female thing to say too, right? Who could support our family while I was doing my PhD. I couldn't have afforded to do it otherwise, right? So there are gender barriers, there are socioeconomic barriers.
I'm a working class academic. I've had to fight very hard to be taken seriously, and I think that's a common experience of women in not just in academia but in a lot of roles.
But the numbers are evening out now, and it's been interesting to see the change in the culture of conferences, for example.
I do critical mass theory. But when you have enough women, things really change.